Welcome back to Think About It, where you can come and daily digitally check in with me for thought and an update, all from a biblical worldview and all in under 3 minutes. I'm sitting here by myself in our beautiful church sanctuary thinking about Easter, and it's because of that I have a thought. And our 3-minute timer starts right now. As we prepare for Easter and continuing this week, we can be quickly reminded of Jesus' pain, suffering, and the agony that he experienced, not just on the cross, but in every event leading up to it. And we should keep those things in perspective. But part of that full perspective also is in remembering that Jesus experienced it alone. The Gospel of Matthew records the transition of Jesus and the disciples from the meal in the upper room to the time of prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. And in Matthew 26, Jesus has already identified Judas as his betrayer, and he's about to announce that Peter will soon deny him 3 times. But in Matthew 26:31, Jesus speaks to the 11 men as they transition to the garden, and he gives this statement. He says, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." When Jesus used that phrase, "for it is written," it indicates to us that he was quoting scripture that he knew and that he loved so well. It's what we call the Old Testament. And the exact reference goes back to Zechariah 13, verse 7, where the prophet is speaking God's announcement and announcing a time of a sword, a soon approaching sword that is going to lead to suffering. For Zechariah, God had him announce in advance a future time of suffering that we see in Scripture as the Great Tribulation, a time of both testing and refining the nation of Israel. Now for Jesus, his use of this same prophecy also indicates to us that his suffering was from God as well. Jesus was not some helpless victim, but the ultimate victor. And through his suffering, he accomplished God's plan for God's redeemed people. But as we know, churches will be closed this Easter, and many congregations will be worshiping from home. But we need to consider whether the picture of the scattered sheep in the Gospel of Matthew and Zechariah is still evident in our churches today. We are experiencing a sword, if you will, right now. But this time of trial and struggle still holds God's promise of both testing us and refining us as his redeemed people. But the question comes as to what will our response be? Will we be like the 11 disciples who scatter in fear when their shepherd is struck? Or will we now praise Jesus and scatter for a far different reason, knowing that he has already been struck, but that he rose victorious? It seems to me that this Easter has the potential for something new. Even in the context of empty church buildings and live stream Easter services, God's people can be made now stronger than ever. And perhaps this Sunday we won't see the church as missing on Easter, but deployed because of Easter. You see, being scattered does not mean the same thing as accepting defeat. We've been given the opportunity to scatter in the victory of Christ, who, although struck, could not be held down. So the choice is yours this Sunday. Will you be missing, or will you be deployed? Think about it.